The letter of 2nd John. Welcome everyone for joining me today, Saturday, June 22nd, as we consider another day text, our first from the letter of 2nd John. And the letter of 2nd John, one of three letters written by Jesus' beloved disciple and contained usually near the end of the New Testament, has manuscript support from the primary codices Sinaiticus, Vaticanus, and Alexandrinus, 4th century for the first two and 5th century for Alexandrinus, respectively, as well as the 5th century Codex Ephraemi Rescriptus and Uncial 48 of the 5th century and P74 of the Bodmer collection dated to the 7th century or around 650 CE. So we have a good basis for the letter of 2nd John. Again, the three primary codices, I refer to them as primary because there really are three main codexes that are referenced or used when it comes to checking readings, although they're not the only three. They're just what I consider the primary three codices, Sinaiticus, Vaticanus, and Alexandrinus. So they all support the letter of 2nd John. Good morning to everyone. All right, so with that understanding in place, and that's just part of our textual support for 2nd John. I'm not giving a full presentation on the textual evidence for these documents. I'm just giving a foundational basis for our acceptance of this text. And the manuscripts that I've referenced provide good support to that end. All right, so let's take a look at 2nd John. It's not very long. We'll finish this up in 2 readings. So we'll do the first 8 verses today, and then we'll do the rest of 2nd John on Monday. Tomorrow we're going to do C.W. Jatak, continuation of our evidence that Jesus is the pre-Christian biblical Messiah by considering some text from Deuteronomy 18. So I hope you will all join me tomorrow, starting around 9 o'clock. For C.W. Jatak. You're welcome to post questions, make comments, and before and after the show, we do a little informal discussion, so be prepared for that. All right, let's take a look now at 2nd John. We'll be reading verses 1 through 8, as I mentioned. I may read straight through or comment on several verses as we go through the reading, so let's take a look. 2nd John, starting in verse 1. He writes, "The older one, to the chosen lady of the house and to her children, whom I love in truth, and not I alone, but also everyone who has learned the truth." Verse 2, "Because the truth stays with us, and it will be with us into the coming age." So this chosen lady of the house and to her children, we're not really sure who the lady is. It seems to me to be a real woman, possibly Jesus' mother Mary. John certainly refers to himself as an older one relative to her. So I'm not entirely sure, of course, if it's Mary. It may just be some other Christian woman who has a home in which Christians and others are able to meet, and she may have a certain measure of ability to assist them in different ways. And so that's why he's addressing her. But you notice what he speaks of first and foremost: the truth. He loves this lady in truth, verse 1. And everyone else who also loves her has learned the truth at the end of verse 1, because the truth stays with us, verse 2. And it will be with us into the coming age. Truth is so important. We have so many liars in the world, all kinds of misinformation, fake news. People just lie. They lie to their kids. They lie to everybody, all for vanity, all so they can make themselves appear to be something they're not, or better than they know they are really. The lie. The lie is the worst thing ever to be introduced into existence, because from the lie have come pretty much everything else. The lie is what started this whole mess in the first place. The opportunity that a wicked, selfish Son of God saw to mislead humans in their immature state by telling them something that they couldn't determine was true or not according to what they knew at that point. So they had to make a decision. Believe the one who has been with them through to this point and given them everything, or listen to this new character who's telling us something different that sounds good. Oh, but it contradicts everything that the person who's been good to us has said. Lie. That's what these liars do. They'll tell you something they think you want to hear. They'll tell you something that's not true as if it is to get you to believe it. And if you do, you not only do not receive what they lied to you about, you lose everything you were about to receive if you had just followed the truth. Verse 3, mercy, compassion, and peace will be among us from God, the Father, and Jesus Christ, the Son of the Father, with truth and love. Verse 4, I was very glad I found out from your children they are living with truth, just as we received an order from the Father. Once again, we see the reference to truth. Verse 5, now I beg you, lady of the house, not as if I'm writing you a new order. Rather, I beg for what we held close from the start. Namely, we should love each other. What did Jesus say? By this, all will know you are my disciples or followers, students. If you have love among yourselves. Verse 6, this is love, that we may walk according to his orders. This is that order. Just as you heard from the start, you should live by loving each other. You can't do that when you're lying to each other. You cannot love someone, not even your own child, if you lie to that child. Okay, you are a liar. You can't even tell the truth to your own child. That's how low many people have sunk today. They will lie to their own children. So if they'll do that, who won't they lie to? Verse 7, because many liars fled into the world, those who no longer admit Jesus Christ coming as a man. This is who I mean by liar, and by one who is against Christ. He's talking about people who probably obviously either knew Jesus had come or who were like the Jews. They had the text, they should know, but they chose not to accept him. Those are liars. They have the evidence. They know the text. They saw the events. They're denying them anyway. Just like people today who know the truth, know what happened, and lie about it anyway. They're cowards. They're the weakest level of humanity, and their father is the devil, the weakest level of spirituality, because he's against the truth, and all he has are lies to mislead people away from the truth. Everyone gets to choose. We have to protect ourselves against these liars. Look at our last verse, verse 8. You must watch yourselves, so you might not ruin the things you work to accomplish. Instead, may you receive a complete reward, full payment for doing the things we were told to do. What? Love. Not love lies. Love the truth. Not run around and argue with people about metaphysics that you barely understand yourself, but to show love for each other. You think Trinitarians and anti-Trinitarians, when they just come together to argue nonstop over the same issues, are showing love? No, they're condemning each other. They're exactly like the scribes and Pharisees who fought against each other and then sought out Jesus while he's trying to help people just so they could try to stop him too. They don't have any life. Their whole life is a lie. Trinitarians and anti-Trinitarians who nonstop argue and refuse to show love to each other are living a lie. Okay, they're living a lie thinking they're actually doing what Jesus did when we can all see it for ourselves. He didn't do anything like that. He addressed the scribes and Pharisees as the hypocrites they were when he had to. He didn't go looking for them to argue. That's just vanity. The people who run those dumb anti-Trinitarian or Trinitarian boards and argue all day, they're just retards, okay? They're rejects. They're people who have essentially been rejected. And so they're just going to try to destroy as much as they can by pretending to be Christians and arguing with each other, giving us a terrible name and confusing people all the way to the end. In fact, I know one idiot who has an anti-Trinitarian board, and he's made more Trinitarians than he's helped people not believe in the Trinity. So he's actually produced negative value in terms of what he's supposed to be producing to help other people. And that's what happens with these boards and individuals who just have no life. They're losers, as I said before. They take up the message of the Christ and abuse it. They just abuse it by arguing with people nonstop about holy things, holy people, and metaphysics when they barely understand their own physicality. It's disgusting. And I get a lot of them who make comments here and there, Trinitarians, anti-Trinitarians, people who call themselves Calvinists, for crying out loud. They actually think they're Christian, yet they'll take on the name of really a terrible man who was a murderer and a liar himself, John Calvin. So you have these people today like James White and others and all of his followers who just love John Calvin. Instead of JC Jesus Christ, they go JC John Calvin, and they throw this Calvinistic garbage in our face and try to supplant the simple message of the Christ. It's disgusting. Now, that whole group and people who do those things, Calvinists and people like James White that just love to argue and debate, they're not promoting the Christ. They're promoting themselves. So let them go. They've done nothing to deserve our attention. We've already considered their refuted views, and they really have nothing to offer us. If Trinitarians want to join us and work together to promote the Christ, that's great. Just don't promote the Trinity, okay? We'll work with you if you agree to do that. Otherwise, we just don't have enough in common with you because you're teaching something that's not taught in the Bible and that leads to mass confusion. Okay, we're here to live with the truth. We're here to show love with truth. We learned the truth. We love in truth. These are all references from our reading here in 2 John. So we are told very clearly to follow this commandment of love, not to follow the commandment of arguing over the Trinity, something that is never presented to us in the Bible, either as a doctrine or as something to argue about. We have very clear statements of faith, one God the Father. Leave it at that. They can't. They have to debate because they're not living with the truth. They're certainly not living in love. Otherwise, they wouldn't spend so much time arguing with each other and showing really almost hatred towards people who should be their brother or sister. And just because they don't share the same metaphysical idea as you reject them. Or you prefer people like John Calvin over Jesus Christ. And while they may not say it's over or against, that's what it is. You should never even speak John Calvin's name when you could be saying Jesus Christ. So they have a whole nother set of problems, Calvinists. And if you are involved with them like Jack, hey, do your best to try to help. But also do your best, try not to get stuck, right? We've already dealt with the James Whites and others of the world. We know they'll keep coming, but we don't have to keep going to them. We've already proven our views, established them from the text. Now we're living in truth. Now we need to show love And we're not going to be able to do that if we allow these refuted views to take the primary place in our ministry. Not going to do that. I'll talk about it here and there, and we've obviously addressed it, and we get comments here and there, but we live in truth. We love in truth. And we are commanded to live by loving each other. Verse 6. This is love, that we may walk according to his orders. We're not told to promote the Trinity. We're not told to argue about metaphysics. In fact, we are told repeatedly not to argue. Yet these anti-Trinitarians and Trinitarians love to do just that. It's terrible. But that's the only ministry they have. You take away apologetics or arguing about God, they don't have anything left. When do you ever see these same people who argue about the Trinity out there promoting charity, out there promoting helping the poor and the lowly, out there actually doing it? Never. I never see or hear them talking about those things because, well, that would mean less time to argue about the Trinity. They're not going to do it. Exactly. That's an outstanding text by Nahal Hever, Galatians 5:15. When we do this so much, this is why it's on my mind. This is why I'm kind of talking about it more. As you know, obviously I get comments every day, and there are people all around. My whole point in the Who Are the Christians video was to get us to try. I know it's a tall order. I know it's not going to work for most people. I don't care. My goal is to show love and to live in the truth. And I'm convinced that if we don't do something about this nonstop arguing soon, we will consume each other, just like the text in the comments says. We can't do that. We have to try to work together and set aside our differences. And the ones who can't, set them aside. Stop even talking to them at all. What are they doing for us except pushing us backwards into discussions of things we've already figured out or know enough about so that we don't have to keep arguing over them? We're not told to do those things. Our ministry is not one of arguing. We're here to teach the truth and to live in love and to show love. And if we can't do that, if our discussions devolve into arguments versus an exchange of love, we have to get out of that. We have to reset, try again. The goal is not to be in an argument. The goal is to be in truth and in love with Jesus Christ and everyone who follows him. So, looks like we have, so Justin Julius is saying he's in a long-term hospital where he has to attend Mass. He had to endure a lot of mockery, but whenever he brings up that we can agree Jesus saved us and is the son of Jah, they then back up. And that really is the heart of what I'm trying to get to. That we can neutralize a lot of this gridlock and division by pointing out the things we all agree on. And that we're supposed to be promoting Jesus Christ, came in the flesh, Son of God. All throughout 1 John. If we could just focus on that and stop arguing about all these other things, then we would be able to give a great witness. And we would be able to give Jah praise and honor his son by doing the very things he did. So let's take a look here. We've read the entire text. Oh, I want the Hollywood garbage dump, right? You guys are probably wondering, hey, you said you'd have this up yesterday. What's going on? Oh, I had to redo it. And in fact, I still have a part I have to redo after this video. So I apologize. I messed that up, but it'll be up soon after. It'll be up sometime today after the date text video. I got involved and I tried to do a few new things and I messed it up. So I had to redo it and I'm still redoing a part of it. So it will be up later today. And I apologize for the confusion on that end. And then there's another question. When is Jesus going to return? Well, We don't know that. I would say that, so if we can document our existence for approximately, well, if we're looking at astrology, not astrology, astronomy, metallurgy, and writing, then human existence does not go beyond 5000 BC. It just doesn't. Even if it does, actually, the evidence doesn't show that. Okay, the actual evidence of civilization, not questionable datings of fossils and things like that. So with that in mind, we really haven't been here that long. But since we're alive, we naturally ask the question, are we going to have to keep going through this cycle of life and death and have it take us before we reach the end? Essentially is why people often ask, when is Jesus going to return? We don't know, because we're told that only the Father knows, not even the Son. So we just wait expectantly, and we do what we have to do in order to survive, give job praise, treat others the way we want to be treated, right? The best way to live, because then you're not a hypocrite. Then people can't turn around and say to you, well, you did this to me, but you don't want me to do that to you. That's what that golden rule nullifies. It gets rid of that hypocrisy to the extent that we can follow it. And so that's why anti-Trinitarians and Trinitarians, that's all they get, because that's all they're giving. And so their whole life of arguing is their reward. We need more than that. We need to try to help people look for others who haven't heard the message. Trinitarians and anti-Trinitarians, they already know the text, and if they don't by now, they never will. Let them go. Unless you really need to discuss an issue or an item, just ignore them. I'm going to start ignoring more comments on my channel too, because some people ask the questions and they're just so obviously answered in the very video they're commenting on that I have to start being more selective with my time. So in any event, I encourage you all to keep these texts close to you. Many liars have fled into the world. Where was that text? Verse 7. We should live by loving each other, end of verse 6, because many liars have fled into the world. We are surrounded by liars, whether it's people who lie against the Christ or just lie about anything in order to try to get an advantage, and yet they never seem to gain. Maybe they should try telling the truth. See how that works for you. Because I'm here to tell you, that's how you gain. Lies just lose. And if you lie, and you like lying, you're a loser. And I hope you lose. Because you're losing and doing terrible things. For those of you committed to telling the truth, I pray that you'll continue to do so. Do the best you can with everything you have. Help as many people as possible. And avoid those who just want to waste your time. Because they will, if you let them. Hollywood Garbage Dump on Toy Stories 1, 2, 3, and 4. Take a look at the Toy Story 2 trailer because it has some really disturbing images. I'll have that up today. CW Jaw Talk tomorrow. Pre-Christian evidence showing, in our view, Jesus is the biblical Messiah. And we will demonstrate that further by considering Deuteronomy chapter 18.